as we start recording. Matt Bourne could have been on the Yuck Yucks roster 1991 to 1999,
Can we stop
followed
making a
by
regional comedy and just
no,
say it's
no,
a comedian? Because do you remember?
no, we cannot.
You ever heard the story Scott Falconbridge used to tell? Who's a very funny Canadian comedian, but he was doing colleges in the States, and in the '90s they were like, "Yeah, last week there was a crazy assault on campus," and then he did another college, and it was like there was another assault on campus, and it turned out it was the guy ahead of him was just acting like he was Matt Bourne.
Wow. Yeah. All right. Dylan wins. Dylan wins that argument. All comedy in the 90s was
Oh, dude, it's still
wild.
all comedy.
Oh, yeah. Still all comedy. Although I'm at the Edinburgh Fringe right now. I got to tell you, I did some pop-ins. There are some feuds going on in the Laughing Horse Free Fringe that is so
Feuds.
fun.
Whoa.
Feuds.
You know what? I would love.
How dare you?
Comedy. I've thought of this before about just like having comedy shoot interviews, where it's
Oh my God, I want it
such
so
insider
badly.
knowledge of things, but so many comedians would listen to it because it would essentially be like, what if there was a very highly
one
produced
saga
podcast that was just gossip about your high school specifically?
Oh my
And they
God,
were
I
all
wouldn't stop
very
listening
good
to it.
at performing.
I would not stop listening to that. If they did the Nepean High School gossip from 1999 to 2003, oh my God, Dylan, you finally got that mug I sent you?
No, yours said "born to punch Jews." I threw that.
What? I don't want
what
to
you
punch
said.
them. Here's my question: how was your vacation? Are you not even home yet?
No, I'm home. I'm at my mommy's house.
Oh, okay. Sorry, because I was like, this doesn't look like your garage where you work out.
I have like now I have this is how you know you're in your parents' house. Another comedian, Matt O'Brien, said this is I am in her computer room.
Of
There's
course.
specifically a room that's where the computer stays.
Yeah, you have to keep it away from your other things because what if the computer starts to learn and then breaks your fine china?
And this looks like a nice library, but it is literally all 4 dummies books about the internet.
Oh, yeah.
780 versions of 4 dummies books about the internet, and my wonderful mother owns all of them. My vacation was good. The tour guide we had really is worried about climate change, and it really.
Oh, for the record, Dylan was on vacation in Syria. Dylan took his family to Syria.
It
was really cheap.
And my mother-in-law was like, "I really liked how hot it was last week." He's like, "That is very dangerous for the island. It should never get above 24 degrees. I fear for my family." And she was like, "The beaches are nice. Why is it raining?" He's like, "The island needs the rain so much."
I was in Scotland when it got 30 degrees and people were like in the streets rejoicing. And it was like we were warming our bodies by the fire of a nuclear power plant. Like it was like, yeah, this is fun right now, but I got news for you. Next year, this is going to be bad. We're going to fucking starve to death.
I'm really was celebrating on Twitter like Minnesota being the new Miami soda. Let's go.
Oh my God! Let me say this, and then we'll talk about Matt Bourne, the climate change denier, possibly the guy who invented climate change denial. Like, let's say Matt Bourne did so much cocaine, I guarantee in 1983 he was like, "I know the world is changing. I want to deny it for profit." And like Karl Rove was just like at that airport bar being like, "That guy's a fucking genius," and wrote it down. And then Matt Bourne was just like, "I got to go buy more gray sweatpants so people can see the jizz stains." The UK is over. The empire is dead. All come monkeys, head to the sea, start swimming to North America. We will make shelter. We're starting a come monkey commune. It's called the CMC, Come Monkey Commune. It will be in Maine. It will have lots of rules. First rule, everyone's your friend.
We've done this podcast long enough and we have such a dedicated fan base. I do believe we could engineer a suicide pact, John.
Yeah, I could, but I don't want to do that because I've so many people from the podcast have come to my show this month, and guess what? All very nice gentlemen. Also, all of them say, I listen to the rest review with a little like, "You're pretty surprised," and I always am like, "I am not surprised. You are wearing a wrestling T-shirt, and your girlfriend has that look of like, this is the guy that talks about cum all the time." Like that's what that like. All of them showed up that way, and I enjoyed it every day. I want them to live long. You and I could have a suicide pact.
No, I mean, John always, he's like, "Oh, here's what we should do on Patreon." I'm like, when do we pivot to Branch Davidians, John?
I mean, not yet, but soon. First of all, when Hale Bop comes back into fucking orbit, we pit. First of all, I'll be Bo, you be Peep.
Exactly. Honestly,
Best
when we start
best Lewis Black joke ever, by the
Zord.
way. Best Lewis Black joke ever, which is about the Heaven's Gate call. Which is, I don't want to be rude to those people and call them stupid, but if I walk into a lecture and someone goes, "My name is Bo, and this is my friend Peep," and you don't walk out of that lecture, you deserve to die. And it's one, and she's like, "Okay, Lewis, that's very funny." Dylan, let's talk about a man who also deserves to die because he's a rude cokehead asshole. That's right, Jim Duggan's least favorite wrestler, Arn Anderson's least favorite wrestler,
Really?
Paul Ellering's least favorite wrestler. That's right. Don Owens' very own Roddy Piper, if he was from Wish.com. That's right. It's Matt Bourne, everybody. Hide your daughters. Literally, he's going to try and sell them for drugs. It's Matt Bourne.
Matt Bourne, a guy who you can tell by the way he lived and the way he died, loved cocaine, didn't care for working out, just was good at wrestling. Truly the actualized version of Jake the Snake Roberts.
Yes, exactly. Jake, he is efficient Jake the Snake Roberts without all of the stops and starts of sobriety that Jake the Snake has now come to known for. All the uncomfortable interviews when he shouldn't be talking and just be dealing with his lung cancer. We don't have to deal with that because Matt Bourne did us all a service and was like, "What's that, cocaine? No, thank you, food, and I'll see you in hell." 55. Couldn't believe that he was
55, done.
he was that young. I thought he looked 55. Basically, as soon as he stopped being doink, you're just like, holy shit, that guy is sweating a lot. And you're like, yeah, man, he is. And he's just arriving at the building. He is not.
Also effectively retired or excommunicated from big time wrestling by the time he's in his mid-30s.
This is the thing that's very important. I know many comedians who have gone the way of this Matt Bourne in that he was semi-retired, but still because Don Owens. Okay, let's go through. Do we want to start at the end? Let's start at the end. Don Owens, who was the only promoter in Portland that was weirdly loyal to Matt Bourne, and basically Don Owens lasted way longer than most of the other territories, mostly because Rowdy Piper in like 84 wouldn't compete against Don Owens, so Vince couldn't really ever go to Portland until the Attitude Era, obviously. But Don Owens was running independent shows throughout the 90s. Matt Bourne would appear on them. I only know this because I did some YouTubing to see what post ECW Matt Bourne was like. Oh boy, he comes out to George Thorogood's One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer, which he was like, that's my fucking song. He's wearing a lime green shirt.
Who love
man.
that song. If George Thorogood's your number one, you don't have a family.
Yeah, exactly. Excuse me, your daughter, she doesn't talk to you. Is that correct? And you're like, yeah, how did you know? Oh, you just know all the words to One Bourbon, One Scotch, One Beer. That's what happens. It's like My Way. If your favorite song is My Way by Frank Sinatra, you're a cunt.
What was I going to say? Oh, yeah. I just wanted to get a little bit of background because his dad was a professional wrestler as well. Tony Bourne lived till 84, literally almost outlived his son. Tony Bourne lived, and he was just kind of like a wrestler in
he was just your
Minnesota and
bog standard sort of like Midwest to West Coast wrestler. Didn't really leave two states, but and I guarantee it was a monster because of how it. Who's calling you? Is that
that's
Matt
right,
Bourne's
buddy.
Ghost?
That's how you know your mom's. There's a fucking landline.
Oh, of course. I also think that
there you go. There's the voice. I'm gonna mute myself. You start talking.
So here's the thing with Matt Bourne is he was raised by Tony Bourne, and basically to hear Matt Bourne tell it, Tony Bourne just took his son to the matches all the time because clearly Tony was like, well, I don't want to talk to this fucking kid. I'll get Don Jardine to do that. And so he just hung out backstage. He claims that he figured out wrestling was fake at 7 years old, but this is why Matt Bourne's an asshole. And I actually reading this was like reading about Matt Bourne at the Edinburgh Fringe was like reading about all the guys I avoided all the artist bars at this fucking festival. Because it was all of the guys that, like, this is Matt Bourne saying he figured out wrestling was fake. I was 7, and then a wrestler, I think it was Buzz Sawyer, picked him up, put him in a headlock, gave him a backbreaker, a spine buster, and a pile driver, and then put him back down in his seat. And he was like, oh, I felt nothing. I guess wrestling's fake. And it was like, dumb fuck. He was showing you wrestling was fake. Is your ego so out of control? You're like, he was trying to hurt me, and I'm
impervious. So that's how adults play fight with children.
Yeah, Dylan is known.
Actually, here's how I know wrestling.
Well, he does it.
My
if you're
uncle didn't
born.
blast me in the face. It's like, that's how. Like,
I think policemen are fake because when I got pulled over for speeding, all he gave me was this piece of paper and didn't arrest me. That's Matt Bourne's logic right there.
I don't think dragons are real because my dad pretended to be a dragon and I laughed one time and I was like, whoa, dragons aren't real because my dad's pretending to be one? That's not just playing with me.
I don't think you need sleep because one time I saw my dad at night. That's why I do cocaine.
Tony goddamn Bourne, very important here, did not want to get his son into wrestling. And the other thing is, for context...
But he did want to get his son into cocaine.
He wanted to just focus on the cocaine, no wrestling.
I just want him to die.
Single parent. He was raised by his father. How shitty is your
Watch
mom
out.
that the judges
Watch out.
I've never thought I'd say this, but you're going to have to be with the wrestler.
Yeah. Hi, everyone. This is the 70s, and I'm a judge. I'm just going to just write here in your file, Matt Bourne, note, get a therapist. I don't know what that is because it's the 70s, but I think you'll need it.
Who is your mom? I'm glad you asked. It was a combination of Eileen Warmos and Carla Homolka bragging about it. I can't wait till they make things that tape. I'm going to murder someone on these things. Maybe my kid. Okay, well, that's now I have to give custody to a wrestler.
And you're the father, Mr. Anthony Bourne, and what do you do for a living? I am the person that beats the shit out of Ted DiBiase. Yep, you go with that guy because I know Ted DiBiase is a guy that he just said beat up and not kill. So yeah, you go with him.
You realize that the custody hearing was like, so you're a professional wrestler. What does that entail? And then he had to like cut a promo on the guy for this Saturday, or else he would have been fired. Do you know what I mean? Like, he had
of course,
to keep kayfabe in the fucking chambers of law, and still was able to get custody.
Listen, I've said it before, and I'll say it again. There was a special, like every guy I know that was raised exclusively by a dad, some of them totally normal, balanced people, but they got a look in their eye. You know what I mean? It's like
alpha look.
Yeah, exactly. They've only eaten meat. They've had a lunch at school. They opened and it was a note from their dad that was like, "You got screwed. You trusted the wrong guy." That's the thing.
Buddy.
Yeah. Whoops. You know what I mean? Listen,
I forgot to buy bread, so I compromised and I rolled you a sandwich in my cigarette papers. Enjoy.
Yeah. Especially also, this is not the 90s when dads started having to be an actual job. Like, bear in mind the time in which a human man had to be nice to a child was when that child was their granddaughter only. Anything else, you could be like, this is not discussed, but like there used to be rules of engagement with grandparents. I had an aunt and I was sat down with like of a certain age and it was explained, listen, she's going to like you or she's not going to. If she doesn't like you, we're just going to leave because she'll be very mean. And I was like, what? Why are we entertaining this clear monster? Yeah. My grandfather had two sisters.
Okay.
Both of them loved me. I'm not going to use her actual name. Because
Gertie.
Yeah, it was Aunt Gertie. And I remember she was smoking in the house and my grandfather walked in. By the way, my grandfather didn't care if anyone was smoking. He just went, "You're smoking too much." And I was like, whoa. You ever see like an 85-year-old World War II veteran showing anxiety? You're like, what is this woman capable of? You know what I'm saying? And like, whoa, what's she going to do? Fun fact, by the way, found out later. Do you want to know where she lived? South Africa, married to a diplomat. Did the math. Whoa. Oh, no.
That's what I'm talking about.
Well, of course, Dylan. I remember you and I once were calling, and you kept being like, "Listen, I agree that Nelson Mandela should have been in charge of South Africa, but agree with me that he was a terrorist." I remember you were like really wanting to stress that.
Yeah, I did some shows in Johannesburg and Cape Town, and I just kept calling me like, "I feel really comfortable here. I like the way things are run." Yeah,
Dylan sent me a lot of photos of him just leaning against a fence, going, "I like this."
I like how things are run. I like taking a cab. Like literally, if you're in Cape Town, they're like, "Oh, I like left my pen outside of the hotel. I have to go to the curb and pick up the pen." They're like, "I don't know how this is gonna happen, but like you have to take an Uber from the entrance of the hotel to the curb."
Oh my god!
Just get in an Uber, climb from the front seat to the back seat, and reach out of the Uber. That's otherwise someone will, like a cartoon amount of people will just roll you
attack
for everything you own.
Oh my god! But by the way, that is possible. I've been in comedy clubs in the States, and more than once they were like, "What time's your flight tomorrow?" I remember this is one particular place and I was like, 6 a.m. I'm gonna get at 4, and the bartender was like, "I'm gonna pick you up," and I was like, "What?" And I was like, "Listen, you might get a cab, but you don't want to get in that cab." And I was like, "Wait, the cabs are muggers at that time?" And he was like, "I wouldn't say they're muggers. You just might not make it to the airport." I'm like,
"Oh yeah, there's a place
what's going on?"
There's a part of Detroit for a bit where it's like, "Oh, if the cops pull you over, don't obey because they might be fake cops and they'll just rob you." And it was like, why do people fucking live here?
Although Detroit now,
I mean, you just
this is the crazy thing is that I've lived through. This is why millennials are annoying, is because we are so stubborn. We'll just like people that move to Detroit are now laughing because they're
We're
finally
all
like
bargain hunters, is what the
yeah,
problem
exactly.
is.
You know what we are? We're all people that walk into a no frills and are like, "This is the shop I was looking for, a place that gives me elitism because of my thrift."
Yes, that's the other thing. Is like every millennial is essentially like their own father, where they're like,
Don't you know what I
brag about,
sacrificed?
like-
Don't you know?
oh, I was gonna say just like how much you pay for that.
Yeah, exactly. But it's also
I'm just gonna make up a lower price, even if it is low. I got this house for $50. Oh, I got mine for 40 now.
oh my god, you were the least of this, but I'm buying a car. Let me tell you who you do not tell you're buying a car to. You're the only person that listened after the third time when I went, "Hey, stop just giving me advice about this. Everyone who's bought a car just tells you to buy the car they bought." But I realize this in that there is a type of millennial. This is the funniest thing. All of the people that gave me unsolicited car advice are all people that I have not asked but have seen their dick. That was the fun thing about millennials. They're going to inflict stuff on you.
Also, I like the idea of John being like, "I gotta see your dick."
Oh, no, it was not that at all. One of the people, when talking about just opinions in thrift, one person said, when I said, actually, new cars are more expensive than used cars, they went, "That is not true." And then I was like, "Yeah, no, it is true." And he was like, "Okay, well, I didn't think you meant it that way." And I was like, "This is why everyone hates our generation, is we can't just admit a mistake. This is the thing."
I mean, that's not, dude. I mean, I hang out with seniors. I've hung out with senior citizens now for 3 straight weeks.
Same thing.
It's
This
not-
is the thing. We're all the same.
They
It's
don't
all
listen.
human beings. Yeah, of
No,
course. No.
human beings just do not listen. And in the
I'm just
spirit
sick
of
and-
that,
I'm
you
sick
guys
and-
are probably not even listening to this. You're just loudly doing dishes, so maybe you missed
Of
that
course.
part. But Matt Bourne
Boom, boom, boom.
got into wrestling against his father's wishes, who then reluctantly allowed him to. And I'm going to call it here. I don't think once someone, particularly an adult, sets their mind to something, you can really change their mind.
No.
But Tony Bourne would have been in his best interest, because wrestling, I think, did ruin Matt Bourne's life. I do believe this guy is just kind of a passive guy, and
disagree.
he really just got into cocaine because of professional wrestling. And I think that if he did another job in a different culture, he would have just been a guy who drank heavily and would still be alive.
I disagree entirely. I think Matt Bourne is one of those guys because of who and how he was raised. He was so in and around the business. He came into it with this elitism. He also was trained by guys that were sort of 2 generations back, so he couldn't adjust to the 80s. I know we've been relating a lot of things back to comedy. But
it's like Bunkhouse Buck. We did a Bunkhouse Buck.
Exactly,
episode.
like
It's
Bunkhouse Buck.
Bunkhouse Buck was like the age of Johnny B. Bad, but acted like he was fucking...
This is the thing. Matt Bourne's the exact same. Matt Bourne is like Jim Crockett is a fucking traitor for going outside of his territory before we even get to Vince McMahon. Do you understand? Like that's how
Matt
old
Bourne
school
does
Matt
not
Bourne
like Jim
is.
Crockett. Correct.
Because of that. So that's the thing is in that, and the reason why I'm so aware of this and it made me so allergic is I'm at the end of a festival right now, and if I have to hear one more comedian say, "Well, this isn't how it's supposed to be," and I have to be like, "Wait, someone told you show business was fair? When was that meeting?" I'm gonna start shitting my pants with blood and
Out
shit.
of anger?
Out of anger. Blood and shit will come out of my asshole out of anger.
That sounds like something
Smells
my son would
like
do.
leather.
Oh, Felix doesn't want to be in Old Navy. He's purposely shitting his pants.
I got to tell you, I agree with that so much. Also, why wouldn't you shit in an Old Navy? Excuse me, where's your bathroom? Why? I want to shit in front of it.
No, he just hides in the clothes.
And shits?
Yeah. He goes
That's great.
He goes
That's
and
so
goes
fucking
and
good.
submerges himself in clothes and then squats down and shits, and then he comes out and I'm like, this guy just took a fucking shit. He starts playing hide and seek in the clothes, and then one time he's like, oh, he's hid pretty well here. He's for sure shitting in this grocery store.
Do you feel proud of your son every time he takes a shit near food?
Huh? No, yeah, that's what I do. I'm like, fucking right, buddy.
Yeah, fucking give it to a bud.
I'm like, hey, can we have can I actually ask a question? How dope is this? That's what I thought he's shitting. How fucking sick is it that he's cucking your whole fucking store, bitch? And then I pushed the teenager over. I pushed
Of
them
course,
over.
of course. Sellers
fucking
choppers.
dad?
My
Where's your
fucking
fucking dad, huh?
son
I'll
has just cucked all of you with his shit.
Cucked I'm glad cucked stuck around, or at least
I mean,
we
it's
still say it. I'm
we
glad
we're still
say
seeing it, and I still
just-
say it
we're
in
just
society. I'm trying to make it other things. You know what I'm saying? I paid for someone's lunch, and then in my head I was like, I just cucked you financially.
Financial. I fin domed you.
Yeah, you've been financially dominated by me. I am
fin
Chuck Rhodes.
sub.
You're Bobby Axelrod.
Ooh, I haven't seen that show. I assume they both have spaceships by this point.
Oh, but
That show is
Dylan,
just like jumping the shark so good.
That show jumps the
We're, of
shark
course,
by
talking
the
about the show
second episode.
Billions.
Yes, Entourage for the elder millennial.
I guess it is.
It is. It's
starring
100%.
That guy from
Yeah,
Homeland, a show that was good for exactly one season.
One
and then it
season.
fucking fell.
100%. Yeah, let me tell
Just
you, prestige
into the
television.
stratosphere.
Here's what no one tells you about prestige television. Welcome to things made by HBO and Showtime. They were all written by a very struggling writer who's had one good idea for 20 years, and he has scripted that one idea into one perfect season of television. And then after that season's released, we have to murder that writer because then they will go on to make 8 terrible seasons. And if you don't believe me, may I show you the show Dexter? What a brilliant idea this is. Yeah, let's fuck this corpse.
No, I was gonna say, what's it called? That's why the guy from Squid Game's so dope, because he's like, they were like, oh, we want you to make another thing, and they threw a bunch of money at him, and he's like, oh, but it took me 15 years to make this thing, so like, automatically the next thing is gonna suck. Like, no way it's gonna be as good. But they've thrown like a fucking assload of money at him, and he's like, all right, how about this? It's Face Off, but it's Face Off still. It's exactly Face Off.
Yeah, hey, what's up? Remember the movie Face Off? I'm just gonna watch that with you. I gotta tell you, I would watch that show so much.
Exactly director's commentary. Anyway,
Welcome to
under the
Netflix's
ring
new
name
streaming
Matt
series.
Bourne.
Matt Bourne and the guy who made Squid Games just watch Face Off. Matt Bourne talks about how he could fight all of the people and be better at shooting, and also make some very questionable comments about John Travolta's daughter.
He was a very good
Go ahead.
amateur wrestler. Matt
Very
Bourne
good.
was, and that led to people trying to fucking shoot on him to teach him a
Yes.
lesson. Then he just like easily stopped that, and then I assume was just like, now that we're here, can I have $10? Then just
So,
started
again-
doing blow in the ring.
If Matt Bourne had been a wrestler through the 70s and coming into the 80s, he would have been like Dick Murdoch
started
or
in
Buzz
78.
Soy. That's the thing, is he started just too late. He starts in 71. He has that like reputation going into Bill Watts and all those other things. Instead, he's the young guy who is, everyone says this, is an exceptional wrestler. Like everyone who has worked with him, especially in the early years, sort of pre the first WWF run, and also him working a lot with Don Owens, is like, this guy's an exceptional fucking talent. He was great in tag teams. The problem was who he was as a person was awful. Again, sorry to
I
relate this back
guarantee
to
he's
comedy.
just like an unreliable drug addict, where it's like, here's Matt.
No, it's
We
more
can't
than
give him
that.
any
Here's why it's
title
more than
'cause
that.
he'll sell
Here,
it.
because I watched a bunch of Arn Anderson talking about him because I was so fascinated to see what Here is why
'cause they
Arn
were a
Anderson.
tag team.
They were a tag team, and why Arn Anderson does not like Matt Bourne is because Matt Bourne was such a dick. He was such a fucking asshole all the time, and just like, and he was like, and it just got worse once he started drinking and doing drugs. And he was like, when he was just an asshole and an amazing wrestler and not a drunk, that was fine. But when it was 3 things, like it would be like, he's an asshole not drunk, he's an asshole drunk, and he's an asshole in the ring while he's very good, and he's not drunk, but he'll be drunk super soon. Fuck this guy. Matt Bourne tried to piss on Arn Anderson because he was like, you don't deserve the spot you've got. Listen, you can be critical of Arn Anderson all you want. The one thing that guy deserves is whatever spot he has. He is an exceptional wrestler, has always been an exceptional wrestler. He was just a very good, simple talent. He was a low mid-card tag team for Bill Watts. It's not like he was getting fucking the world. Matt Bourne was just a jealous ass. And also, by the way, apparently a very good fighter. Very good at fighting was the other thing that should be made mention.
Of course, I mean, if you're going to be a drug addict in a wrestling locker room in the 80s and 70s, you're going to be able to throw the dogs.
Oh, yeah, baby. And does
So
he
if you're
have to throw the
still
dogs?
like? Here's the other thing about wrestling is that, and we've discussed this, and it really does bear repeating. 1957 is when Matt Bourne is born. He starts professional wrestling in 1978. He's a 21-year-old man, and the thing about wrestling is it attracts a lot of people who are already failed.
Yeah.
So you're looking at guys who, yes, were professional athletes, but their bodies are broken now. They're 30. They get into wrestling, or just people who are like crazy people who end up just in professional.
It's one of the
wrestling for
carny
whatever
arts. Stand-up comedy is very similar in that it is a job that you can get by walking into a building. You don't have to do anything else. If you get into the right building, you're a comedian now. You're a wrestler now.
Yeah,
like
that's how
it.
things really did work by that. But my point is basically this guy's in the prime of his life, and these old guys are like, I'm 42, I can still fuck you up. And it's like, no, you cannot. There's a reason why every single UFC champion outside of the heavyweight division is a guy who's 25 through 32. It's because that's when your body's like that's when
At your peak. Yeah, of course.
you can run through a wall. They did a study because rich people don't want to die. If you aged the way basically your recuperabilities, if you aged the way you age from 20 to 29 for your entire life, then you would live until like 2000.
Yeah.
So they're working on a pill that like slows down the aging process to what it's like in your 20s, which is fucked. But so rich people are going to harvest us for our organs, which is sick.
Oh, of course they are. But here's the fun thing about all of that is then they won't know the law and unintended consequences, and also good luck. Like, oh, you want to live for 2,000 years? Don't start now. Now's not the time to start living for 2,000 years. These are not going to be good years coming up. Newsflash.
Yeah, I mean, I don't think they're worried. They'll like live in the center of the earth, just eating small children. Anyway,
enjoy living in but again, at a certain point,
see
in hell.
John.
Of course, I forgot.
Podcast.
Yeah, welcome to fucking QGas. My name is fucking Jim and On. Go ahead.
Here's my favorite thing about Roddy Piper, though.
Oh,
he starts
it's
wrestling
so
the same
good.
pretty much time as Matt Bourne.
I thought
Roddy
of this
Piper
too.
Is the type of guy who's like, I don't care what this guy's talking about. He has drugs. He's my friend now.
Yeah. Roddy Piper is just one of those guys that's just, I think Roddy Piper's really fun. Roddy Piper seems like he's really fun in that he behaves
like a Bill Murray thing where
lot. Yeah, that's exactly it. Roddy Piper was around at exactly the right time for his personality. He was like, I'll tell you what you do is you sometimes just shit in a cop's mouth. You got to break into their house first and duct up their wife. And that's what you do. And like Roddy Piper was like fun Matt Bourne in that he'd like go like Waka Waka to like Larry the Axe Hennig and stuff like that. Like still no one knows what happened between Roddy Piper and Pat Patterson. Do you know what I'm saying? Like there's that weird moment in the shoot interview. No one really knows, but the difference is like if that had been Matt Bourne would have said it a billion million times, which is more appropriate, quite frankly. If Pat Patterson was inappropriate. But what I'm saying is that Roddy Piper sort of, for the environment that wrestling existed in that time, Roddy Piper played ball while portraying himself like a rebel, weird asshole. Matt Bourne was just a rebel, real
as well.
Yeah, but Matt Bourne was pretty fucking good. Like,
not promos, not jumping,
not in promos. Yeah, that's the problem. And also, by the way, if he was actual Matt Bourne, if he was like on coke, giving a promo, I want to see that shit. Let me tell you about Hulk Hogan. I got his fucking kids' phone numbers. What? Yeah, that's right. Talk to his kids at night.
But this is exactly what you're saying. He's behaving like it's the 70s, like you can do anything you possibly can because you're going to be in the next town tomorrow. And the way he has his career, like the amount of territories this guy switches, he does behave like that.
Not always for good reasons. Why are you leaving Georgia, Matt? Oh, no. She's a teenager.
Oh, no. 1978, he literally wins like with Don Owen and he wins the heavyweight title. So he's like immediately.
Oh, Don Owens fucking loves Matt Bourne. Don Owens wants to have babies with me. He wants Matt Bourne. Wrestling sounds so boring in the ring and so fun in the locker room. What's in the ring? Well, Roddy Piper's just the sheep herders in a headlock. Will be there for 40 minutes. But in the back, they both split a Quaalude and are now trying to bathe in a fountain only they can see.
He also, of course, is great friends with Mr. Perfect, which Mr. Perfect seems like a guy who everyone says is cool, but when people talk about him, it's like he doesn't. That doesn't.
Yeah, it doesn't seem fun. You know who Kurt Hennig always reminds me of is you know how you meet like a fun guy in stand-up comedy, and one of their friends from school comes to a gig, and their friend from school is like, I'm going to go talk to that waitress. I was thinking of a specific incident.
That's very funny.
And I was like, okay, not fun.
No,
this guy
I grew up with him, and then he's like, he's just like hard hitting on like the female comedian on the show, and he's like, she was a bitch, she didn't want to suck me off. It's like, okay, that sounds like Mr. Perfect.
Let me say this right now
I pranked
about
her, by
Kurt
which I
Hennig.
mean I planted a gun on her, and now she's in jail for
This
5
is the
to
thing.
10.
What I guarantee with Kurt Hennig is that here's the story that's never told. Oh, Kurt Hennig put a lock on someone's bag, and then someone went and got a knife, found Kurt Hennig, and held the knife to his throat, and went, "You're gonna take that lock off my bag, or I'll cut your fucking head off, you little bitch. I'm not a fake wrestler." And then that's the thing with especially the Kurt Hennig guy is that all those stories are so silly. Oh, I remember Kurt Hennig did this and he was a hero. And what they don't mention is then the guy went and got a fucking baseball bat and tried to kill Kurt Hennig. Like, there's no way Kurt Hennig doesn't have stories when I'm sorry. That's the end of most Kurt Hennig actual story. I'm really sorry I did that. I'm really sorry.
But he has the license, like Kurt Hennig does, like Matt Bourne does. He has the license to because my dad worked here too.
Yeah, what are you gonna do?
That's a lot of what Matt Bourne is. It's like my dad worked here too. He doesn't really want to be the heavyweight champion. I'm gonna do nose candy and be obnoxious. But my dad worked here. You already
imagine Dylan if that mentality had carried forward. I'm really happy that's gone. Imagine like you can't do. Imagine if someone said to me in 2022 as a stand-up comedian, it's like, "Hey man, I'm gonna be the headliner because my dad was a headliner." I'd be like, "What the fuck? No, that doesn't mean anything."
That still exists.
Where?
I can think of some people.
I cannot. I think you're thinking of the same people, but I don't think it's happened to that same level.
Not the same level, no. But like, if you're looking at like Tony Bourne, Matt Bourne essentially inherits Tony Bourne's career
Schedule. Yeah, his schedule, his road schedule, basically. Yeah.
They just trade off. He's like, here's a solid hand who can be a tag guy and in a pinch can be a good challenge for your heavyweight champion, and that's totally what Matt Bourne is. Matt Bourne, like, we'll talk about Doink later on, and Matt Bourne says that basically him and Bret Hart were so in sync that each of them just did perks, which is so funny because that's a thing for Bret Hart, where Bret Hart is a motivated guy, so he wanted the best match possible, but he knew Matt Bourne was great, A, and B, not that into it, so he was just like, I guess I'll just be fucked up for this match. Because
I'll be on your same level.
I don't want to be frustrated that this guy is not trying as hard as he could. I'll just be fucked up like he is.
I also think it's still, we're sort of jumping around a little bit, but
whatever, man.
It is still sad how the Doink character panned out in retrospect. I loved Dink, Pink, and Stink when they did that. I loved like babyface Doink when I was a child, but as an adult, it's like, oh my god, that would have been amazing. Of course, Matt Bourne claims that Doink was brought in to wrestle for Hulk Hogan. For those of you who don't know, Matt Bourne basically spent the 80s popping in and out of various territories. We should talk about his Georgia Championship wrestling run is where he met Arn Anderson, and then eventually had to leave the territory because his girlfriend was a teenager. Gotta go. Matt Bourne's a creep. He also spent a shitload of time in Bill Watts' territory, where he interceded in a crowd fistfight with Hacksaw Jim Duggan and kicked someone in the head so badly that they lost an eye. The way Matt Bourne tells the story, he was a conquering hero on the day, but then when Bill Watts got sued and Jim Duggan got sued for $30,000, he was suddenly no longer that welcome, and he always thought that was bullshit.
Have repercussions?
That's exactly it. It's the funniest thing. Like, these fucking pussies then suddenly were pissed at me when they realized that little fucking loser couldn't take a fucking full boot to the head from a strong
But also,
person.
this is probably the start of like, oh wait, people are gonna like hold us accountable because it's just a show.
Also, the way Jim Duggan tells it was he didn't need Matt Bourne. Like, Matt Bourne was escalating the situation, like he had it handled. It's that thing in the way Matt Bourne tells it.
A kick is usually like you throw a kick when things are all said and done.
Yeah, a kick that
I've never
really
seen a kick in a street fight that was necessary because no one. Was like, I need.
Oh my god, yeah.
Use my karate on this man. It's like Jim Duggan has the guy pinned down. The situation's over, and Matt Bourne boots him in the fucking head.
That said, I did when I was in a street fight when I was 14 years old, when I had shaved my head and someone tried to draw a dick on me, and then a bunch of people tackled me.
Dick.
That's right, a dick. And I remember I kicked a guy really hard in the balls, and then I always remember this. He went, "You don't kick in a fight," and then he kicked me in the head really hard. And what's fun is that guy's now in prison. Attempted murder.
Attempted? Yeah, too much of a bitch.
Pussy. That's what I said. That's what I say every time I send him a letter with your address.
69 come fucking try me attitude road.
That is your road. It is weird. I don't know how you got the city of Toronto to change your address. Yeah, John Tory, don't got here. I'm gonna need you to fucking change the name of the road to Come Try Me. Yeah, of course.
Come Try Me Boulevard. Oh,
I got news
jeez.
for you. If you change the name to your street to Come Try Me Boulevard based on the people who live in your surrounding neighborhood, that would increase the
There would
property
be a
values on
line.
your street. Oh my god, huge.
People would try
fu-
me.
Bro.
A lot of tracksuits trying me.
And I got news for you. They would not succeed.
They would all succeed.
I don't
There'd be a
know.
lot of guys punching me in the face and talking about how the store didn't have that, Debbie.
That's true. But
They would
here's
just
the
be
thing with
envisioning their
you.
wife.
Here is the thing with you is you get determined. And you get frustrated in a way I've never seen any human being get frustrated. You get frustrated.
It's so hard if they punched me.
Oh my god, you would start immediately looking for weapons. Hang on.
Ooh, the doughboy is coming out of the road.
Yeah.
That's what I would say. That
This
would
is what
mean that
happens-
My penis is out, and I'm.
Oh, of course you're fighting dick out. Of course,
fucking
it's the rest
hosing
review
it.
style, as
Have
we
you
all
seen
know.
that greatest clip? We'll talk about Matt Bourne again, but the greatest clip in
No.
internet history: guy sucker punches a guy on a stoop, and the guy is dazed. He's on the stoop, and the first thing he thinks to do is take his dick out. So he takes his dick out, and the guy who sucker punches is like, "What the fuck?" And he's like, "Let's fucking fight, man." Takes his dick out,
I've
and
not seen
what that
this.
does is
So good.
the other guy doesn't want to touch a guy who's full naked, so he gets to have his wits about him, and the guy who sucker punched him ran away.
That is a strategy that a friend of mine has claimed he always would employ, and then we almost
Everyone
got mugged.
says they will, but this guy fucking did it. Do you understand?
A friend of mine also started, which was we got a guy walked up to us in a park with a knife, and my friend he was like, "Give me your money," and my friend just went, "What's that?" And then I just heard the whipping off of a belt, and that dropped on the ground, and then I just heard jeans and just drop, and he went, "Now you can have our money," and I was just like, "Holy shit, he actually did it!" And the guy just walked. Guys walked away. Absolutely not. I had seen it before, and I've seen it again. Of course, my eyes are open. That
Challenge him to a
penis
size
saved
off.
me money. He did challenge him. Not even a size off. It was an implied size off. An ISO.
So he goes to the WWF, and we all know what's happening here. He shows up. Vince McMahon's like, he's a good wrestler, and then he does cocaine off the top rope, and it's like, don't do it in the ring, and then he gets fired.
Yeah, exactly. Basically, he shows up as Doink in the weirdest time in wrestling.
No, this is 1985. We're not at Doink yet.
Oh, so sorry. I got so confused. Sorry, this
He's
is
a jobber
yeah.
in 85.
This is
but, like,
he's a jobber in
with a
85.
Character.
Yeah, he's a jobber with a full both a first and last name, and that is about it.
Yeah, because Piper gets him in there, and Piper's like, "Oh, why don't you come in here and do coke in this place with me?" And then he does, and
what?
he's like, "Okay, bye-bye."
All right, thank you for bringing that coke from Oregon, but you're now been fired.
But you've been fired because you do too much coke, and that's for the mid-'80s.
Yeah, it is pretty weird. I have never seen someone do so much cocaine. Pablo Escobar called me and said, "Tell him to slow down."
Okay, we don't have a reward system. Why is this guy doing this? It's not 8 kilos and you get in the ninth ring.
He keeps calling me and saying that he's entitled to a free kilo. I think he just bought some stamps.
Here's another really telling thing is all of this, Matt Bourne burning all these territories alive, whatever, in his first 8 years of wrestling. And in 1986, he's in world class for 3 whole years.
That's so wild. Of course he is. Where else would he like? Where will he find solace in the chaos? Welcome to drug abuse and emotional abuse, the wrestling territory.
Of course.
I miss my dad. Walks into Fritz's office. Another disappointment. I miss my daddy.
Matt Bourne's like, all right, so you're gonna lose to me and Carrie. All right. What?
Yeah.
You don't care? I am so fucking ripped right now.
I fucking think I'm me. Do you understand how fucked up I am? I'm so fucked up I forgot who I am and I remembered.
So he's in there for 3 years and just, you know what I mean? He's just...
What do you think his car smelled like at this time? Like this is the thing. This guy
Well,
is driving.
is the interesting thing is you the sliding door of WCCW at this time is very cool because it's like Matt Bourne enters, and in WCCW they're having the Ultimate Warrior is in there. I think he even crosses paths with Steve Austin, if I'm not mistaken.
I think, yeah. No.
So you're kind of getting people who are like, oh, there's money in wrestling now. We're hyper professional. And then you're getting that mixed with wrestling is what you do before cocaine.
Yeah, like It's an interesting time because it's WCCW right before Jerry Jarrett comes in and becomes USWA. So you have like Cactus Jack is almost about like it's this thing of like you're about to get
Yeah,
the
Mick Foley, like
Yeah,
straight edge, like pretty much the advent of the straight edge wrestler.
yeah, you're getting the debut of the guys who realize that there's money in this business as long as you don't do a bunch of drugs. It's the same thing as stand up and everything. And then it is presented as an alternative, weirdly, in the middle 90s. Did both Dylan and I read Chuck Klosterman's The 90s, and that's going to affect our worldview? Yes, we did. But it is absolutely true. There's this weird moment of like everything has to be a reaction to the previous, and Matt Bourne is like 2 generations back, but the right age that he should be like rebelling against the machine, but he doesn't. He loves the machine. The machine lets him do drugs and not have to take any responsibility. He doesn't want to have to be like Mick Foley. I guarantee Matt Bourne and fucking Mike Graham were very good friends. I guarantee that they loved chatting to each other. I guarantee that they were.
It's the fucking my dad worked here society.
Exactly. And they cannot exist in other wrestling because they do not know how to exist in the world. Do you know what I mean? Like,
but then it's becoming like what I'm saying is like there's millionaires now being made by WWF. So people with like viable careers.
Yeah, but I do not
think into this.
That was happening in the 80s. I think you're prescribing something that is happening in the 2000s. Yeah, late 90s, 2000s. The Attitude Era is when I would say that really started.
Mm-hmm.
And then the Rocks moved to Hollywood. In the 80s, no. In the 80s, everyone was like, it's that Hulk Hogan thing.
I know, but it's like now.
Thank you for agreeing with me. You know, you agree. You were wrong. Thank you for admitting you're wrong.
I very much disagree.
Oh no, you pranked me. I've been got.
Make money. People can make money. They see
again. I agree
I can do that, and
but
then they do.
Have this, but there's still a shame to it in that like Mr. T is wrestling, but that's the last big mainstream celebrity they have, and Mr. T isn't that like in the scheme of things in '85.
They had Shaq.
When did they have
Norris.
Shaq? And they had Shaq, I believe, was WCW, bitch, and that was in the 90s.
He was in both.
When was Shaq in the WWF?
He wrestled Big Show.
Did that was again in the 2000s, though. I'm saying that's much later, not in the Matt Bourne time.
You're
proving my point. No, you've been cucked. You've been information cucked. I see.
He loved Percy Pringle, and he said he got along with Chris Adams, except when he was drunk. Which that's
of
how
course
bad
he
Chris
got.
Adams
Of course, wow. Of course you. It's very funny. All the people he's like, you never believe how much I got along with this vial I found on Kerry's person after he died, and you're like, yeah, I could believe that you got along with that vial, actually, Matt.
Yeah, actually, I had a system of elder abuse that allowed me to fund my cocaine addiction, but Chris Adams was rude.
Yeah, I'll let you know that I more than once used to prank call just various women and tell them that I gave them AIDS. And I only did that because I wanted to hear their cries of sorrow. But that Chris Adams, he did not treat women with respect.
So in what could have been his big break, weirdly, and I think kind of in a way was, Matt Bourne gets a call to be Big Josh and
oh yeah, baby.
And he's not like
someone sedate the bears, not as much as Matt is sedated.
Well, this is what I'm saying, though. It's like
time. Also, who came up with the Big Josh gimmick? This was the great revelation of this episode. I always assumed it was a Jim Hurt idea. Who came up with the idea?
Airbud. I said Airbud did. Do I have to say it a third time? Airbud.
Why do you keep saying Airbud? Because
he came up with the gimmick. They're like, there's no rule dogs can't play basketball. And then they asked Airbud, and he was like, I made Big Josh, didn't I? And they're like, well, get him in the game.
That's right. It was Dusty Rhodes. Dusty Rhodes came up with Big Josh. The idea being, we'll give you an axe handle and you can attack the heels. Which basically is Dusty knows how to convince Matt Bourne to do a job. He's just like, this fucking Jim Herd wants some fucking kid performers in. I'm going to get a guy who's definitely on coke and definitely has cum on his person. And I'll get him to portray a friend of the bear. That's so weird.
It's so bizarre that Matt Bourne was Big Josh. And then like, it's just bizarre that like he's this much on coke, but still very jacked.
Do you understand how fucking amazing it would have been if they had done Matt Bourne, the honest wrestler, honestly who Matt Bourne is in the Attitude Era, just coming out, I'm on coke right now, so I'm not wrestling this week. I just want to let you all know everyone in fucking Tacoma's got little dicks. Oh my God. He would have been the biggest.
Loses?
biggest babyface in the history of ACW. If he'd gone back, if Paul Heyman had brought him back, if he was the face of the network, I just want to let you all know tonight on ECW on TNN, I'm just going to read you from a book that my dad would have wrote if he knew how to write.
Yeah. Matt Bourne is tapping out because he's got to go take a coke shit.
Yeah. Matt Bourne is refusing to come to the ring because, quote unquote, Paul Heyman won't give him big enough bills so he can buy some powder.
Yeah, I mean, it would have been so awful because, you know, in wrestling subtlety, like his friggin' finishing move would have been called the drip or something.
Oh, no, yeah, it would have been called the he's on cocaine and his penis doesn't work.
He can't get hard. He's leaving. He counted out again.
Yeah, I guarantee the reason why Vince McMahon fired him is he was like, don't you not like it when your dick doesn't get hard? And Matt Bourne's like, that doesn't bother me. And I can't even look at you. Get out of here.
Here's the thing, though. Matt Bourne, this is why I think he's kind of like the reason we almost started this podcast, because they're like, hey, you're a guy, a lumberjack, and you're friends with bears. And Matt Bourne's like, all I heard was money guaranteed, cocaine for Matty. Like, he's like, I like the character. Why? I like money. Who cares?
Doing coke with a bear. Matt Bourne, president of Russia. Matt Bourne.
I mean, like, the character could have been like, and I'm trying to think of the thing that'd be a most offensive to Matt Bourne, but the character literally could have been
sober guy.
1991.
Could have just been a sober guy. If it
No,
had been a sober guy,
like, non-binary Matt, and he'd be like, I'm not a man or a woman, and then he would have been disgusted by that. But then he would have still, of course. Oh, we got another landline call, John.
Let me just say this completely: is that Matt Bourne is so fascinating that it's that thing of he is a wrestler first and foremost, even more than being a cokehead. So he's like, I got a job to be a wrestler. I will do that job. Yes, I will hang out with bears. But what's so funny is it's basically like Matt Bourne, unlike Dylan, I do genuinely believe Matt Bourne was an asshole who did some light work in cocaine, but the main problem was who he was as a person.
I think they were all assholes. I think Matt Bourne was just a huge fucking cokehead who was enabled by an entire industry, and he was the kind of guy who keeps on drinking at a party when the person's cleaning up.
Yeah, 100%.
Where are we going after this? I'm going to bed, pussy. Like he's
oh my God. Yeah, again, what a month I'm having. The amount of people that have, it's so good. I am 37 years old, and one night, last night someone was like, I was like, do you want to drink? And I was like, no. And he's like, oh, gross. And I was like, he's like, come on, have a drink. And I was like, you're going to try and peer pressure a 37-year-old? Have you never lost anything? Like, prepare to taste defeat, my friend.
Divorced.
Yeah.
You can't peer pressure a divorced guy.
This man? Yeah, what are you doing?
You cannot kill what doesn't exist.
Yeah. Oh, I have. Oh, we won't be friends if you don't drink. Oh, that's interesting. You considered us friends. I'm a 37-year-old man. I made all my friends maximum 10 years ago.
So then, of course, Big Josh doesn't work out. He goes to the WWF, where he does a couple matches as just straight up Matt Bourne, and then is transitioned into the Doink gimmick, which is basically, you're a clown, but I'm also a territory heel. Let's go.
It's the best.
Bro.
It is so fucking good. Early Doink rules. He's in the green thing. He has the most terrifying music. He's fucking bizarre. I loved it. He was the last.
When was it released?
It was slightly before that, but here you make a great point. It was released, I think, a bit before this, but the iconography of it, the Tim Curry weird made-for-TV movie of Stephen King's It, was around all the time. And then on wrestling, we got this Doink. It was also made that much weirder in that they really put him over as this bizarre heel. The commentary was amazing at the time because Bobby Heenan would be like, well, is he a wrestler who's dressed as a clown to intimidate his... Like, they would never explain who he was. The commentators would act like he kind of just showed up and they're all bewildered. But like, it was such a great presentation.
Oh, yes. The It movie was in 1990. So...
Yeah. So
this is pretty timely for wrestling. 2 years after the thing happened.
But I also don't think that Vince McMahon was thinking it. I think Vince McMahon was like, we'll have a clown. We're a circus. And then Matt Bourne was like...
It's probably a Razor Ramon thing where they were like, literally, the writer saw some movies and was like, let's pitch him Scarface and It.
Yeah, and well, it's Scott Hall. Scott Hall is who pitched Razor Ramon. They wanted him to be Army Man. They wanted him to be like Army Scott Hall. And he was like, what if I do this? And they were like, what is this?
Yeah,
He's
they
like,
didn't. Yeah, Vince hadn't seen Scarface, but and thought he just made up that character, which is great. But anyway, so yes, they pitch him It, and he does the character. Of course, Matt Bourne likes money, so he's like, yeah, sure. And this is a really fun time in wrestling because it's all these like territory wrestlers who have to do these like broad-based characters. I guess it's a lot like if the internet was around back then and Twitter was around, it'd be a lot like Pete Dunne having to be
Oh
Butch.
man, all I could think about is if Matt Bourne had Twitter. Holy shit.
Yeah, he would not have lasted in the Twitter.
Oh,
he
yeah.
would have said some shit.
Matt Bourne would have been one of those people. Remember when someone got kicked off of Twitter in like 2014 and you were like, what the fuck?
Oh, yeah. There would have been some like straight up Conor McGregor type tweets where it's like, why is Conor McGregor tweeting this? Oh, yeah. In his time is 3 a.m.
Yeah.
It's like 9 p.m. somewhere, and he's just fucking having at Muslims for some reason.
Well, it's because Conor McGregor, much like Matt Bourne, is an mass cokehead. Like, let's
So much.
not fucking mince words. And like, you can see in Dana White's eyes whenever Conor McGregor's brought up, and he's just like, "Yeah, we'll bring that guy back." Like, it's just kind of like, okay, Dana.
Well, he makes them so much
Money. I
for
will
him.
tell you, I watching that Conor McGregor fight, the last one wherein Cowboy broke his leg. I was on the Santa Monica Promenade with my gal pal.
Oh.
And I don't think I'd ever seen the UFC before. And for some reason, I just was like, oh, I'm actually kind of intrigued. I always find I just find him an interesting human being. And so we're just watching the fight, and we timed it just perfectly to watch his full leg break and then the Joe Rogan interview, which it is
Like,
so.
I'll get you next time, Dustin Poirier, and I had sex with your wife.
Oh, yeah, it's I got to say, Conor McGregor, you know what Conor McGregor's really missing? Imagine if Matt Bourne quit wrestling and went into UFC training. Conor McGregor would be 10 times the fighter and 400 times the drug addict.
Matt Bourne's an interesting guy because would he have gone in the UFC? No, there's not enough money.
Yeah, I think he would have, because he just needed some money.
Well, because they said now, I saw a stat that said there's more people that do steroids than do heroin now because of like this weird anti-aging wellness thing, which
Yeah.
I think is fine. I'll just throw that out there. I mean,
I mean, some of the spin-offs from that community are a bit intense, but like, listen,
whatever, man.
I've been
Heroin's
dealing with
really bad.
Yeah, listen, I've been dealing with fucking man children my entire fucking life. If they have a beard and are jacked, and at 50, I can still be like, no. Like, also, and this is what I've said to many people, and I continue to say it, I do not care how fucking big and strong you are. If you really fucking threaten someone, be prepared that person might get in their car and run you over. Like, it's one of those things
Or just I don't never suit.
Yeah. I don't understand this ever, and it's just one of those things where, like, it is because I saw the super jacked guy being a dick in Edinburgh, and he was walking into an area where I know the security, and I was like, this guy is about to make a very big mistake. And not 30 minutes later did I see him sat by himself outside of one of the venues, just with that look of, you got kicked out and you got scared and you thought no one would scare you anymore, and now the world is fear. And that, I think, also is Matt Bourne's problem. And Matt Bourne never found comfort, never found understanding, because he was chasing a wrestling industry that barely existed when his dad was wrestling. So by the time he's Doink, he is weirdly, like, for the lack of a better term, artistically at the top of his career. That Doink character has now lasted 30-something years in terms of the consciousness of wrestling fans. Not a lot of characters from that time are beloved, but Doink, especially the Matt Bourne one, is. And it, like, people forget he was Big Josh. People forget that he was a statutory rape and a motherfucker. But
that was, to be fair, that was everyone in wrestling at that time.
I understand, but the point being that Doink still continues on is a really sort of sad, tragic thing of, to your point, if this guy wasn't on drugs, if someone had given him a hug, if his mother hadn't been a human cigarette, he might have actually been able to carry on. There was talk from Matt Bourne that Doink was supposed to be an Undertaker opponent, which is nothing I had ever heard since. But
That's crazy.
God, what a good feud that actually would have been, especially at a time when Matt Bourne could still go and Undertaker needed opponents. Like, we could have had Doink, like, weird evil clown Doink, and he loved working with Paul Bearer. Like, you know what I'm saying? Like, the possibilities for Doink are endless, and why it's really tragic. I think the Doink Crush match at WrestleMania 9 with the mirror Doinks is the only good match on that card.
Yeah, I mean, it's kind of the perfect character for
Or
that
Bob
era.
Backlund, Razor Ramon.
Or what?
Bob Backlund, Razor Ramon at WrestleMania 9 is also a great match.
Hey, Bob Backlund had a great second half
It
of
is
his career.
not
And
a great
weirdly,
match.
like Bob Backlund and like Doink are kind of weirdly similar, where it's just crazy people characters. I think if you get into once Doink leaves and is in ECW and becomes Matt Bourne again, then I think that's closer to what Doink would have been actualized, where it's like this guy thinks he's a clown, but he's just fucking nuts, and he's like half wearing clown makeup and half not, and he's insane.
It was. And he keeps putting clown makeup on people, and these people have ruined my career. Essentially, Matt Bourne again was just what Matt Bourne was saying to Paul Heyman in the back.
Yeah, but then the other thing is like, there's only so many times. Now this is ECW 1994, so this is one of the first versions of that character. But there's so many people who had that character in ECW of the WWF ruined my career, blah blah blah, and it just gets boring after a while. It's kind of like,
Oh yeah,
how now, and if you're going to watch wrestling now, I guarantee 19,000 promos after the Kevin Owens Drew McIntyre as of this recording last Monday promo. You're going to get 19,000 promos that are like, I was held back for this amount of time, and now wrestling is back, and wrestling. You know what I mean? Like it's cool once, but when you see it 900 times,
it's something that wrestling has never learned, that needs to learn, which is one time good, then wait.
Yeah, it's kind of like when AEW started, and it's like everyone is a goth badass. It's like, you guys, I get it. You guys are in open relationships. You're proud of it. But
yeah, I get it. I used to vape too. Stop it.
You gotta. The Matrix. The Matrix was a good movie. Not every movie has to be The Matrix. Anyway,
Yeah.
So Matt Bourne takes his. Do you think that he stopped the horrible sexual appetites with the cocaine during WWF?
No.
Okay.
Especially,
you really like the Steiner brothers.
Yeah, the guys that he likes, by the way, it's literally like he was like, I want to send up some red flags. Let me go be friends with Buck Zumhofe and Grizzly Smith. Holy shit. Let me tell you.
Who love the business, like Buck.
How much
Grizzly
cocaine
Smith,
are you doing
Ted
that you
Bundy.
get Yeah, exactly. Let me tell you who loved the business. Osama bin Laden. He no sold 9/11.
Yeah.
Yeah. Let me say this about New York City. They sold during 9/11. I wouldn't have sold that. I wouldn't have sold.
I'll say this. I think Osama bin Laden actually weirdly is a better
Kept it
person than
kayfabe.
Buck Zumhofe, because at least he had
Go ahead.
something you can understand. At least
Yeah.
he had a villain origin story you could understand. It wasn't like, what's your villain origin story? Oh, well, I want to punish this country that was horrible to my country. Oh, okay, well, you shouldn't do that, but I do sort of understand. What's yours? My daughter's hot? Okay. Like, you got to give
first
me more?
guy.
That's all
First
there is.
guy. First guy. You feel like killing the second guy? And he's like, yeah. I'm like, that's cool. Get on that.
That's good.
Here's
Hopefully
something
he's
that
in the building.
I've noticed as I'm getting older is I do not want to have to cause harm on anyone. But there are certain people, like when I hear about them being hurt or something bad happening to them, I'm like, that's good. That's really good stuff. Like more. I'm like, yeah, minor infractions. I'm really like when I found out Matt Bourne was dead, I was like, that's cool. I didn't know he was dead. That makes me happy.
Oh, he's a shithead. I just think that there's like
I agree. I'm not talking about you. I'm saying to my point is as I'm getting older, I'm getting way more into the people that I don't like just not being here. I like that.
Oh no, I know what you mean. I'm just like Matt Bourne. He is, I believe, a shithead and probably just like super entitled. And when things kind of fell apart, he got fucked up and went into semi-retirement. This is the thing. Like, he was a wrestler for 17 years, and what is he? 1957. So he's effectively gone by the time he's 37, which now is your
prime of your career.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Dude,
Now
AJ Styles and Bobby Lashley just wrestled on Raw, 45 and 46 respectively. Still
It's
doing great.
insane how AJ Styles especially
Like I said though about the fucking roids and heroin, how everything switched around. It's like the version of Matt Bourne now isn't addicted to cocaine. He's addicted to steroids, and like he drinks like
jacked.
leaves. He has his own garden and he only eats from his garden.
Of course, he's drinking that weird mud that's ever basically.
Oh god, that shit. Oh
yeah.
Fuck that.
So essentially, if you listen to this podcast, you guarantee get that weird bearded guy talking about poop in your YouTube ads.
It's chaga mushrooms, and also it tastes like shit.
Yeah, exactly. You know what was very funny? I
It's
remember
called mud because it makes you angry. But anyway,
So-
I'm really healthy, but now I can live forever with the rage inside.
So here's the thing, because I pay for healthcare in the United States, when I go into a doctor's appointment, I have no nerves because this is my employee and I will be asking him any questions I want. So I asked about a bunch of those health remedies and like colonics and stuff like that. And I was like, when they say there's like old shit in your asshole, what's their science? And he's like, microscopically, there will be some like a speck of shit that's 10 years old in your colon because of beef. But like, that doesn't matter. Your body is designed to have bacteria around it. That's not a big deal.
Yeah, also those cleanses are like they get rid of like 10 pounds that day and then it just builds back up again slowly.
Yeah. It's like, it's one of those things where I did one juice cleanse really good once and it was really good, but I was also quitting smoking at the time.
Mm-hmm.
And it felt amazing because my body was able to like purge everything out of my body. And then after, I felt really great. But then like ate like super intensely clean for like 6 weeks. And I remember I had one piece of bread and like my whole body just changed its. I was like, oh, I get what this is. Like if you like eat super controlled, yeah, you look great, but you can't veer. Matt Bourne is really tragic in that there aren't more video clips of him showing back up at Don Owen's weird late 90s versions of Portland wrestling and talking and sweating in an Oxford shirt because I want to see more of that because it's really good.
You should say this, though. Matt Bourne did not talk to his family until his death.
Yeah, Matt Bourne, by the way. Matt Bourne.
1994, his wife and took
daughter
their daughter and left.
Didn't see him until 2010. Matt Bourne.
Didn't see them at all.
Oh, did he not see them at all?
As of his last interview in 2010, he had not seen them.
What is amazing is Matt Bourne's reaction to that, by the way, was to clear out his bank account and just sit in his house and do cocaine. No. They cleared out one of the bank accounts.
Oh.
He then went and cleared out the rest of them before she could get to them. And then he just had 50 grand in cash, closed the door to his house, bought 3 ounces of cocaine, and just had himself a sad party. Welcome to party. Time to be sad.
What do you do in that situation, though? Other than just wallow. Like
You wallow.
You know what, actually?
Yeah, but
I'm going to take up woodworking with all this time I have on my hands.
as a man who, like, relatively speak, like, listen, I've had a very, like, a life-altering breakup, and then you thought you were going to be with someone for the rest of your life. And what you can really tell how healthy you are, because in that moment I was like, I'm not going to do anything because I should just process this. And then later I will smoke massive amounts of marijuana. Mm-hmm. That's what I did in that moment. Matt Bourne went, I'm going to just do a bunch of cocaine and then forget that woman's name. Maybe she was a man.
I'm going to try and just stab with a pin the part of my brain that remembers who my family is.
Exactly. I'm going to try and shoot the part of my brain off with this gun. Oh, wait, that gun turned out to be just a drawing of a gun. How much cocaine have I done?
He did some stunt work, some odd jobs, returned to wrestling when they had that like 90s resurgence where every 90s character. He did some stuff with Chikara and then passed away at the age of 55 in 2013.
In Plano, Texas, I assume if he had lived, he would have participated in the January 6th insurrection.
Yeah, he was. This is the thing about Matt Bourne. There's no way that guy was going to get clean off of drugs and not turn into a born-again Christian who was like...
Oh, yeah. But I do not liking gay people.
Yeah, exactly. Oh, yeah. I go in person to every gay marriage and do it.
Yeah, let me tell you who I don't think are real people. Women.
Oh, yes. I think we should return to the laws of Rome and women are legally children. Anyway, yeah. But Christianity helped me stop doing cocaine.
Yeah. And that's the important thing. Guys, Matt Bourne was really fun. If you're hearing this, there is one more week of the Edinburgh Fringe Festival. Please feel free to pop in and say hi to me, John, who is doing the show. Dylan is not doing a show this year because he's very busy being a
I'll
good
never
father.
do a show again. I'm confident saying I'm never going to the Edinburgh Fringe again.
Yeah, Dylan's never coming back to the Edinburgh Fringe.
Ever.
Yeah.
Ever. No, maybe I will. Maybe I will when I'm like old as dirt. But like as a way to make money, get fucked. It's not going to happen for me. Anyway. So come to my shows and shit. If you're in Canada, DylanGott.com. No, just go on Twitter and stuff.
Yeah, just go on Twitter.
DylanGott. At Dylan Gott. I don't even post on Twitter anymore. At Dylan Gott is on TikTok and Instagram and Twitties. And I post shit on Facebook page now because I'm old and other old people post there as well. So what's the best and worst thing about Matt Bourne? You dog fucker.
Best thing is that he's dead. Worst thing is that he stole my dog.
Whoa! I think probably the best thing is he was a good wrestler, and the worst thing is it's pretty hard to be a coke addict with no personality, but he goddamn did it.
He certainly did. Let me tell you, I have never seen a guy that guaranteed does coke and then talks to you about how 9/11 was not an inside job. And it's like, you don't even know how to do this right, man.
Well, what conspiracies were there in the 80s, really? Like the Jews run the media, that's it?
Yeah, and there were none because we didn't have the internet. Like the conspiracy theory, Kennedy assassination.
Kenny's so the layup ones where it's like, okay, they really fucking lied to us there, but
Or did
so
they,
the ones
Dylan?
where it's like, yeah, the moon. I guess the moon landing being fake.
Moon
too.
landing is not a fake. That one is so. That one is literally you.
That
can,
one's nuts.
You can
Kubrick
just
faked the moon landing.
Fuck off.
Do you think he did it though?
Yeah,
I think Kubrick was on the moon. I think he really landed on the moon.
you are aware that I know the guy that started the nouveau flat Earth movement. Like in that documentary that's on Netflix, that guy was a comedian. One of the guys in that was a comedian in Montreal for years that I did comedy with.
Yeah, I mean, you look at the origin of a lot of
Oh my god, so many
evil,
failed
and
stand-up
it's-
comedians.
yeah,
Milo
very good public
Yiannopoulos
speaking
fails.
skills, and oh wait, people are just gonna listen, and I don't have to. All I have to do is be engaging and actually not get a reaction. Let's go. Yeah, Milo Yiannopoulos went to school with our very talented comedian friend Harriet Kemsley. And
Yes,
Harriet's
he
the
did.
one that put the bug in his ear to start talking about all that stuff. So you
Certainly.
can talk to Harriet
Milo,
online about that.
Stephen
Thanks so much
Crowder,
for listening. Next week,
Dylan Gott. Go ahead. I'm just naming the people that go hard right.
next
that have
week
done
is
stand-up
someone
comedy.
we don't know.
Yeah, we don't know. We don't know who it is. Listen, it's August. We take August loose, guys.
Loose in the poos.
So
Thank you
we'll
so
see
much
you
for
next
listening,
week.
guys.
Thank you for listening. Thank you for listening to us either on Patreon or wherever you get good podcasts. And just remember, this podcast ends when Dylan and I meet and fight to the death.